So let's just start with Norma's story. How did you come to find out about it?
So we found out about what happened to Norma through news stories, actually. And so we went and read that there was a woman who had been arrested for feeding the homeless in Bullhead City, Arizona. And we're a nonprofit, so we're entitled to contact potential clients. And so we got a hold of her and her attorney in the criminal case, and we were able to talk with her and learn more about what had happened and go from there.
So as an attorney, and just so those understand who are tuning in right now, Norma was arrested and faced really retribution for feeding the homeless in a local park in Arizona, as you mentioned. So you find out about this story, and as you're reading through the details, talking with Norma about what happened, what were you thinking as an attorney? What was going through your head as those details came in?
It's such a wild story. You think at first that this can't be real. It can't be the case that a city is arresting someone for helping those in need. And then you find out that it is the case, unfortunately, that that's exactly what's going on. And that violates the Constitution. And so, as a constitutional attorney, one of the things we do is we hear stories and we say, okay, well, that sounds a little off. And then you go and do the research and you do a little more investigation and you say, well, that is off. That isn't how these things are supposed to go. And that's exactly what we were able to do here.
Yeah, I mean, you're vetting her story, you're hearing what she's saying, and this is a woman who gets up 5 days a week, makes food at her home, brings the food over to the park, feeds the homeless. By her account, she's there about an hour. She leaves the place cleaner than when she got there. So this isn't really an issue of leaving garbage behind or anything like that. But let's sort of pivot in now to this Bullhead City, Arizona ordinance. The ordinance essentially says you can't feed people for charitable purposes in the park, correct?
So mostly, there's a permit requirement. And so if you want to feed people with a charitable purpose on public land, you first have to get a permit. These permits are expensive. They're only available for one person 1 day a month, and they're only available at one location 1 day a month, regardless of who asks for it. They're expensive to apply for. They're very difficult to comply with. You have commercial kitchen requirements and a whole host of other restrictions that you end up facing. And so in essence, it acts as a ban on people serving those in need in public spaces. And that's exactly how Norma has experienced this ordinance and how it's been applied to her.
Right. Even if she had paid the fees, even if she had gone through that process and gotten the permit, she's doing this 5 days a week. You said one time a month, essentially, she'd be able to do this, right? Even if she was able to do all the other pieces of that puzzle. Wow.
Exactly. And that's not nearly enough for the kind of gold-hearted woman that she is.
So what in your experience, and I know this goes beyond experience because we actually have documentation of the town talking about this, but why would an ordinance like this be created?
So any municipality has any number of reasons that motivates them, and it's difficult to kind of pin it in the abstract. Here, though, we have video of city council meetings where they talk about their exact goal is to eliminate homeless people from public parks, that they don't want the public sleeping, or they don't want any homeless folks sleeping in public spaces, and they don't want anyone who's homeless eating in public spaces. And so they've passed several ordinances kind of around homelessness. The ordinances don't use language targeting homelessness because I think they recognize that would be additionally problematic. So instead, they just say, okay, well, you can't feed people if you're doing it for a charitable purpose. You can feed your friends, and that's just fine. So you could serve the exact same food in the exact same location to 50 people if they were at a birthday party, for example, but you can't do it if you're doing it for a charitable purpose. And so these kinds of justifications and exemptions that they've put into the ordinance really undercut its effectiveness and certainly its constitutionality.
You know, the other piece of this story, I mean, there are lots of pieces that is intriguing, is the fact that Norma told us that she had done this for years without a problem in the park, that nobody had come up to her, no police officers had come up to her or said anything to her or warned her about doing it. Now, she has this encounter with the police, and feel free to correct any of this if it's incorrect, but she has this encounter where she's arrested, this first encounter with authorities. What do you think was going on there? Why would an arrest be the penalty for violating that ordinance?
So that's what they decided on. They decided that it should be penalized as a criminal statute. And so that's what they enacted. Norma had been able to feed anyone as she wished for several years. And the reason that it became an issue when it did was because the city went out and enacted this ordinance, and it became effective in 2021. And so Norma ran into it like a buzzsaw this past spring.
So so that's interesting on the timeline. She had obviously already been doing this before this was an issue. It becomes an issue. She's continuing to do it. Then she has, that helps clear up that timeline there. Just on a personal note, and obviously you're an attorney representing Norma, but what do you make of her as a person? Because when you hear the details and you talk with her about what she does every day to help feed others, I don't know if you want to reflect on that at all. It's a powerful story.
It really is. The world would be a much better place if there were more Norma Thorntons out there. She is so kind-hearted, and she does what she can with what she has to help others. And, her story is really strikes my heart every time I hear it. She grew up and experienced poverty herself. And that's, I think, a very devastating and life-altering experience for some folks. And so she used that experience to go out and say, I want to help others so that they don't have to experience this, or so that at least the worst aspects of it can be blunted, and I can help them at least not have an empty stomach tonight. And it's really heartening to hear. And every time I talk with her, I love her a little bit more. And she's just really wonderful.
Now, after this arrest happened and the court, and by the way, I don't know if you want to speak to this at all, because it was interesting. I know that the government backed away on some of this, but what was she facing? Let's say she decided to violate this ordinance again, right? She was arrested and she decided to move elsewhere. She's giving food out now a block or so away at a private alleyway. But let's say she chose to do it again and was caught. What would she risk as a result of maybe a second offense?
So it's a class 2 misdemeanor in this town, which carries a punishment of up to $750 in fines, plus court costs, which add up pretty quickly, and 4 months imprisonment, which is really kind of the devastating gut punch about it all. Like, she could actually go to prison for helping other people.
And so she chose to move. Thankfully, somebody gave her space. She's feeding them a block away, but you have filed a lawsuit in this instance. And can you take us through that? What are you hoping to accomplish with that lawsuit?
So we want to get Norma back to where she was before all of this started. Serving folks in the park is really the best place that she's found. It's where people see her. It's where people who need to be fed are able to come and sit together and enjoy each other's company. And people can see her, they can wash their hands, they can sit at a table and eat like humans instead of having to sit on the ground somewhere. And so really the whole goal of our lawsuit is to vindicate the rights of Norma and to protect the rights of those who want to engage in these charitable traditions that are so deeply rooted in American history and the American experience.
What would you say to somebody, they're watching this or listening to this right now, and they're saying, well, I don't want to go to a park where there's homeless people. And they're saying, the town has every right to do this. How would you respond to them?
I mean, certainly homelessness is a very complex and difficult issue to contend with. I mean, homelessness is unfortunately endemic to the human situation, and I don't know that it's something that is easily solved. But Norma isn't contributing to homelessness. She's just helping alleviate some of the problems associated with that, and that's hunger, which is just such a critical experience in the human tradition. And You have to, I think, give space to people who are having a hard time and understand that part of what makes America great is going through and helping other people when you can and when you have the ability to do that. And that's exactly what Norma is doing here.
I would actually add that one of the challenges I would imagine in some towns, and I know it's different everywhere and in some cities, is having access to a large group of people who are homeless in one place to try and rally ways to help them. What is interesting about the effort that she's doing is that it does do that. It brings them together. So what an opportunity potentially, I would imagine, for the town and for others to have a real space to potentially come in and find longer lasting ways to serve some of these people as well. And that was something that really stuck out to me with this story, and thinking, gosh, she's doing this every day and they're coming to this place. Isn't it an opportunity maybe for the town to help those people? I don't know. I don't know if you want to reflect on that at all, but it struck me as intriguing.
Yeah, no, certainly. And the Bullhead City area and the larger Mojave County around it, unfortunately, has a lot of poverty in it. And so there are food pantries and there are homeless shelters in the area. But unfortunately, they don't have capacity to serve everyone who needs it. And so Norma feeds both folks who are homeless and folks who are kind of teetering on the edge and who are just in need of a meal and have nowhere else to go for it. And so between all these service providers who are both kind of the more formalized folks, as well as folks like Norma, who are just going out and doing what they can with what they have, there's a really great opportunity for folks to come together and help the folks who are in need because they're already right here.
Well, Diana, I really appreciate you taking the time today, and we plan to keep up on this story and to have you back again soon with updates. Thank you.
Thank you so much.